History often remembers the Cold War for its spies, its nuclear brinkmanship, and its proxy wars fought with soldiers and weapons. But there was another war, a secret war, fought not on battlefields, but in the shadowy world of international finance. This was a war of money, a clandestine conflict where billions of dollars were weaponized to prop up allies, destabilize enemies, and ultimately shape the world we live in today. The story begins in the rubble of post-war Europe. The ideological battle lines were drawn between the United States and the Soviet Union. While tanks and missiles were being amassed, a quieter, more insidious strategy was taking shape. Washington and Moscow both knew that military might alone wouldn't win this global struggle. They needed to win hearts and minds, and to do that, they needed cash lots of it. Take a look at this document, declassified just a few years ago. It's a memorandum from the early days of the CIA. It outlines a plan not for a military invasion, but for what it calls political and psychological warfare. The key instrument? A slush fund, unaccountable and untraceable, designed to funnel money to anti-communist political parties, labor unions, and media outlets across Western Europe. One of the most famous examples was in Italy. The 1948 election was a critical flashpoint. The popular Italian Communist Party seemed poised for victory, a prospect that terrified Washington. In response, the newly formed CIA launched its first major covert operation. Millions of dollars, disguised through a complex web of front companies and private donors, flooded into Italy. The money was used to support the Christian Democrats, funding everything from poster campaigns to get-out-the-vote drives. The operation was a success. The communists were defeated, and Italy remained firmly in the Western camp. But this was just the beginning. This map here doesn't show troop movements. It shows money flows. Suitcases of cash delivered in the dead of night. Coded transactions zipping through Swiss bank accounts. Funds laundered through philanthropic foundations. From influencing elections in Latin America to backing friendly leaders in Africa and Asia, the CIA, as financial network, spanned the globe. It was a sophisticated machine designed for one purpose: to contain and roll back Soviet influence, $1 at a time. But the Americans weren't the only ones playing this game. The KGB was just as adept at financial warfare. The Soviet Union poured vast sums into supporting communist parties worldwide, funding revolutionary movements and spreading its own propaganda. They established front organizations like the World Peace Council and the World Federation of Trade Unions, which appeared independent but were secretly bankrolled and controlled by Moscow. This created a bizarre and often hypocritical battlefield. While publicly championing democracy and transparency, the West was secretly manipulating democratic processes. While the Soviets preached the evils of capitalist greed, they were masters of offshore banking and black market deals. It was a global chess match where the pieces were stacks of currency, and the board was the world's financial system. Think about the impact. A labor strike in a French port, seemingly a local dispute, might have been secretly funded by the CIA to disrupt supply lines for the Communist Party. A popular newspaper in a newly independent African nation, full of anti-Western rhetoric, could have been propped up with rubles from the KGB. These operations were designed to be invisible, to create outcomes that seemed organic, but were, in fact, carefully engineered. The stakes were incredibly high, and the methods were often ruthless. One of the most audacious operations involved the Polish Solidarity movement in the 1980s. As the trade union rose to challenge the communist government, the Reagan administration saw a golden opportunity. Through a network that included the Vatican Bank, labor unions, and covert operatives, the CIA funneled tens of millions of dollars to Solidarity. This money provided printing presses, radios, and basic supplies, allowing the movement to survive underground and eventually triumph. It was a major victory for the West, achieved almost entirely through financial means. On the other side of the ledger, the Soviets had their own successes. They were experts at economic sabotage. For example, they would flood global markets with commodities like aluminum or gold to depress prices and hurt Western economies. They also engaged in massive counterfeiting operations, printing fake US dollars to sow chaos and fund their own covert activities. It was economic warfare in its purest form. These financial battles also had unintended consequences. The vast sums of unaccountable cash sloshing around the globe helped create the modern offshore banking system. The techniques of money laundering, perfected by intelligence agencies, were later adopted by criminal organizations and terrorists. The secret financial infrastructure built for the Cold War didn't just disappear when the Berlin Wall fell. It evolved. So, why does this matter today? Because this secret history reveals a fundamental truth about power. It's not just about who has the biggest army, but also about who controls the flow of money. The financial wars of the Cold War set a precedent. They demonstrated that economies could be targeted, elections could be bought, and entire countries could be destabilized without firing a single shot. As we navigate a world of new geopolitical rivalries, the lessons of this secret war are more relevant than ever. The weapons may have changed, from suitcases of cash to cryptocurrency and cyber attacks, but the fundamental strategy remains the same. Understanding this hidden history of the Cold War isn't just about looking at the past. It's about understanding the invisible forces that continue to shape our present and our future. The secret war of money never truly ended. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into the secret history of financial warfare interesting, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that history books often leave out. See you next time.